Is CM Punk worth it? Yeah, he is. Let's roll the credits. That has done. I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luke Owen, DAD. AEW Collision has just had its debut episode. We watched it with you all on the live reactions, and now we're here to give a bit more of a deeper dive into the segments and the existential questions it raises about AEW's life choices. Give us a subscribe, press the thumbs up button, leave a comment down below with what you thought of the episode and CM Punk's return, and send in your CMDMs or OmegaChats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one of them, over $5 before the end of the show. Should we just do a quick recap of what CM Punk said before we do that? Is he worth it?
Yeah, I think we open up this podcast episode by going over the opening promo, because Punk opened the show, and I think there's sort of a few key points to hit here. Obviously, he made allusions to the Bucks. It's also worth remembering that reportedly, allegedly, he's not allowed to talk about them. And in the same way, the Bucks and Kenny Omega are not allowed to talk about him in public and things like that, because there's various NDAs and legal letters and things like that. And that's why Paige is in the ESPN article, because Paige is not listed, because Paige wasn't part of the fight.
Yeah.
So he was allowed to talk about Hangman Page. So he found a very clever way in this opening promo here to allude to the Young Bucks.
Yeah, the clever way was he started off the promo by just saying, "I'm tired of being nice," and then he started to give effectively his ideology of the wrestling business.
Yeah, bear in mind, like, his first promo when he came back on that Rampage episode was, "I am back in professional wrestling because I love the business of professional wrestling."
But business can mean many things, can't it? It can mean the art form. You know, people say the movie biz, show biz. They're not saying, oh yeah, the numbers and stuff. Yeah. They're talking about the creativity and the art form and just the general vibe and thrill of it all. I feel like now he's being quite Machiavellian in saying, oh, but I'm talking about the business, which means working with people to make money, brother.
I mean, he name dropped David Zaslav in this promo segment. Like, that is business.
That's where the whole argument falls down a bit for me. Anyway, just to go back to the start. He says, this is the pro wrestling business for grown-ups, implying that he is the grown-up. He has been to WWE, whereas the Elite, Page, Omega, the Bucks, they are not grown-ups. They behave like kids.
Yeah, well, I think it's less of I've been to WWE and more of a I don't talk to dirt sheets. I think that's more, because that's one of the big bees in his bonnet, isn't it? Is that, because reportedly the whole reason this kicked off is because Page was under the impression that Punk had got Cabana fired, when the reality is that Cabana had just been moved to Ring of Honor for whatever reason. He wasn't re-signed to AEW, he was just moved across to Ring of Honor instead. And the dirt sheets had reported that it was because Punk wanted him out, because Punk and Cabana do not get on. And so Page, being friends with Cabana, he took that personally. And he had that line in the promo. And that's what Punk was talking about in his in the press conference, was talking to the dirt sheets and stuff. In that ESPN article, talks about talking to the dirt sheets and stuff, and and leaking things to the press.
Yeah,
which is what a child would do, as opposed to grown-up CM Punk, a man who is always taken the higher road on everything.
So he then sort of makes everyone cheering for him complicit by saying, well, thank you everyone who's cheering me, who loves me. I'm here because of smart professional wrestling fans like you. Again, saying we
get it.
We know because we're grown-ups. Right? It's
we're grown-ups and we love this business.
He is a cult leader. Like, you got to remember, that's always Punk's appeal.
Cult of personality.
The cult of personality. He has this hypnotizing quality about him when he speaks on the mic. And I'm frequently under its spell. And I was under his spell for a lot here. But I can also step out of my own head and say, well, I can see exactly what he's doing here. This is Cult 101. You're getting everyone on your side against the other people.
I said on the live stream reactions, he's magic.
Yeah.
I've always had this thing with Punk, which is that, like, particularly when he stepped away and he was gone for 7 years, and I know then we all had the big LOL at his UFC run and things like that, and he became this sort of a very bitter man who just sort of seemed to hate professional wrestling and hated professional wrestling fans, and you know, and I took that personally. And then I would hear a CM Punk promo on a podcast, and I was like, oh, he's the best. I wish he'd come back. And then he came back, and I was like, oh, he is the best. And then Brawl Out happened, and I've got no skin in this game. I've not picked a side. I think everyone is as bad as each other in all of this. But he came out on this, and I've kind of like been going into Collision being like, yeah, I'll see what's going to happen. I'll see, you know, what will happen with Collision. I'll see what the main event's like. I'll see what he has to say on the promo. I've not been excited about the show. Second he came out, the second he picked up a mic, I was like, oh no, this is the best TV show in professional wrestling, and that man is magic. I
would say even, so he then, you know, finishes the promo, goes away, and we have an hour and a quarter of a great wrestling show. I'm loving the wrestling. I'm like, this is such a good first episode of a program. And then he comes back out for the Trios main event. I'm like, oh God, it shoots right back up again. He has such a star presence. But then he talks about, you know, the loving him, your smart professional wrestling fans. My mere presence makes people uncomfortable, though, because I'm uncompromising, because I am the truth. And this starts from the crowd, F the Elite chants.
Only the once did this break out.
They booed the Elite later on. He never says the Elite, but, you know, he's heavily insinuating. And then, yeah, this is the part when he says, because he's referencing signs in the crowd of different versions of his name. Pepsi Phil. CM Junk.
Yeah, that guy was trying to get his CM Junk sign over in the main event by just walking back and forth across the hard cam. And the crowd end up chanting, F your sign.
And then Punk says, well, David Zaslav calls me Big Bill, or One Bill Phil.
One Bill Phil.
Which is... You know, he makes money. Yeah. He is the headline attraction for your show.
You can call me whatever you want. You can have any reaction to me, whatever you want. I don't care. Because there's one man that matters in here, and he's the man at the top of this food chain. And that's David Zaslav, who's the head of Warner Brothers Discovery. To CM Punk, his opinion's the only one that matters. And David Zaslav says he's money, build an entire show around him.
Yeah. You know, it's a good line. You know, it's that sort of peek behind the curtain. He said such a corporate name.
I'm sure David Zaslav loved it.
Yeah. And you know, like the peek behind the curtain of the pro wrestling business, and it's all about the TV rights negotiations and Collision as a new show. But to say at one part, to name drop Joe Strummer, right? And say, Joe Strummer taught me these things, anti-authoritarian, I'm the truth. And then to say, yeah, but, you know, like, it doesn't actually matter who's wrong or right, because the most corporate suit possible thinks I'm all right. Those two bits are contradictory to me.
I agree, particularly, like, right at the end of the promo, when he goes up the ramp as well, this is all off-mic stuff, he shouts down the camera. I found this out on Twitter later because we didn't hear it. He shouted down the camera, I'm not here to chase stars. I am a star. Like, it's almost... I'm so curious now to see what next week's Phil is. Because this is first episode back CM Punk, but also it's in Chicago CM Punk. So he's always going to get that huge babyface reaction in Chicago. It's next week, I think, is going to be the really interesting of, is this the CM Punk character? This deluded narcissist, this guy who thinks he is above the company? Because... the other thing we haven't mentioned, actually, and I think one of the things that hasn't really been brought up a lot, he takes off the AEW logo of the microphone.
Good point.
So he has the microphone in his hand with the AEW, square around it. He takes that off. Is this the character? This is the new version, the next level of CM Punk. And that could also tie into the other part of this promo, which is he says he's still the world champion.
Yeah, you have a babyface come out and say, hey, I can't help but notice when you cut that promo, you remove that AEW logo, and that's how you bring it back up. If they do that, then I think this is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
So I'll reserve judgment, but I do feel as though what I think I didn't know what I wanted, right? Mm-hmm. And now I've seen what's happened. I think I realized what I wanted, and that was for everyone to be friends again. And it's been 9-10 months, and I was hoping that more progress had been made. And what happened here was a very good promo, very well delivered. It's CM Punk, happy he's back. But it came across very petulantly to me as well. And it feels like absolutely nothing has been resolved. If he's not going to be a heel like you just outlined, which I think is really cool, but I feel like he's going to be a face. It makes me a bit worried for the company, because I don't think you can. Sure, you can make 2 shows, but I think you're just kicking the can down the road of this huge conflict.
I agree. But I mean, we joked about this a lot on the live stream, but it really does feel like this is a company that is just hoping it works out. And look, this is the best situation we can be in at this point in time. CM Punk is back on the show. Andrade's back on the show. Miro's back on the show. We're getting all of these chess pieces in place. I just really hope that if I just let the chess pieces move themselves, I'll get checkmate and everything will be fine.
Reason will prevail.
So on that one Bill Phil thing we didn't know, where he made reference to counterfeit bucks in this industry.
I don't think you have to say indirect or insinuated. That is a direct call out.
He did it on purpose. Yeah. And what he said was, I am a star, the Young Bucks are not. Mm-hmm. I am worth money, the Bucks are not.
Ergo, everything I've been saying beforehand about the non-grown-ups and that stuff.
Yeah.
And he also had a line at the end where he says, maybe I should apologize.
Because there are people that want me to apologize for my actions last year.
And he said, to those fans, I'm sorry that the only people softer than you are the wrestlers you like.
It's the softest man on the planet.
The guy's injured twice last year.
It's not even just that, but he's got a fragile ego as CM Punk, and he's got the audacity to come out here and be like, your favorite wrestlers are soft. Have you seen you, CM Punk? Mm-hmm.
So AEW used to be that place you'd go to get away from wrestling's tribal enough as it is, and Pete, Tempest, and The Office, they're
done with this
Punk. They would prefer it not happen. They don't like all the drama.
I was going to do a show yesterday on the WrestleTalk Podcast. I was talking about doing a bonus show on a Friday show with, actually, funny enough, with the thumbnail we've got for today's show of Is He Worth It? Because it was ahead of the ESPN article coming out, and you had the reports from Fightful and Wade Keller about what that could entail. And I thought, I'm not going to do it because I'm going to wait until the ESPN article comes out, and I'm glad that I did, really. But I was talking to my wife about it because I was working from home. She goes, who are you going to do the show with? And I said, well, Ollie can't do stuff on Fridays. Pete won't want to do it. And Tempest won't want to do it either. And actually, I don't think anyone really wants to do this show.
Yeah. It's so what Punk did there is directly antagonize those people who feel he acted poorly. And you can do the shots at the Bucks and the Elite and whatever. I'm not a fan of that either. But to not call out, but patronize the people and intentionally offend the people who are more on their side, I just don't think is in the spirit of reconciliation that he should be coming back in. I do feel like everyone who watches AEW deserves an apology from Punk for how he acted at the media scrum. The brawl, separate thing. Don't care. Like, obviously I do care about, but let's separate those two. For how he conducted himself as world champion in that media scrum, he should apologize to everyone who's a fan of AEW, regardless of what side they've since taken.
Because in the ESPN article, he said that he apologized to Tony Khan for that, but has not apologized to anyone else by the sounds of it, including us. Not that I think I am owed an apology from CM Punk, but it was a black eye on the company, and not a good look. I mean, it's not great. It's the tricky thing of being a CM Punk fan in 2023, which is that, I mean, what I say in 2023, in any time period when CM Punk is wrestling, is like, yeah, he's amazing, yeah, he's the best promo, and he's got this magical aura about him, but he's also a prick. And it's just, it will just do things that really make people angry.
So that's all of the shooty stuff.
Parts of it. Unless, of course, it's all a work.
So then, like, okay, is he worth it? Because you've got all that side. I'm like, I really, really don't want any of it. Genuinely, it saddens me. But then you've got, oh my God, you are effectively an uncrowned champion. You had my favorite singles feud of all time with MJF last year. He's the current champion. You are tied one apiece, and he sets that up in this promo. He says that he won that last match. He won that dog collar match against MJF.
Yeah.
Pushing us towards MJF versus CM Punk. I'm like, well, if that's is he worth it?
Yeah.
Like, you've got that side of things, and it's marvelous.
And which is the second part of this promo. The first part of it is this sort of like business. I'm not calling out the Bucks, but shooting on the Bucks. This pew shooty work side of things, right? And then the other part of it is now, well, we're going into work and business. Like, this is the wrestling portion of this now, where he had this red bag. He never took whatever was in that red bag. What he said was in there was the thing that was taken from me last year that shouldn't have been taken from me, because I never lost it. Alluding to the world title, because it was stripped of him after a brawl out. And he said, and I didn't get this because I deserved it. No, I earned this. I didn't deserve it because I had the best dog collar match in history. No, I won the best dog collar match in history. And he sees himself as the world champion. And yeah, like we said on the live stream, it feels like we're setting up Punk MJF as your main event of All Out.
Which is enormously exciting. And then the other side of the is he worth, well, the yes, is he worth it side, the main event.
So good.
Trios match. CM FTR, one of the more clunkily named trios acts in existence. They tag together against Samoa Joe and Bullet Club Gold of Jay White and Juice Robinson.
Excuse me. Yeah, this was amazing. I mean, this was brilliant.
They went about 25 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel bad a little bit for Jay White and Juice in this, because this match was not really about them. You know, I really thought they would do a moment in this when you have CM Punk standing across the ring from Jay White. And no, well, you just got a CM Punk hot tag where he was just taking out Jay White and Jay White was bumping and feeding for him. This was all about Punk versus Joe.
Yeah. Which, I feel like that is a missed opportunity, actually. But Joe and Punk and Joe and Dax Harwood, in particular, were fantastic.
It was so great.
All the Joe Punk stuff, like the Joe Dax stuff, was just awesomely badass. But Joe and Punk, there's so much history there, 20 years of it, and it felt really momentous, and it brought out the best in Joe.
It did. Like we kept saying on the live reactions that we just did then, like, this is the Joe that I've been missing. Like, and we had that Joe during the Derby feud. Actually, I feel like we've had that Joe since he went to AEW. It's just like, oh, that Joe still does exist, because Joe was like my favorite guy in the mid 2000s, whether he was doing it in Ring of Honor or he was doing it in TNA. I loved Samoa Joe. I have not bought a lot of wrestling merch in my lifetime, but I did buy Samoa Joe t-shirts because I was like, he's the best. He's my guy. And then I was so excited for him to go to the WWE. But I always felt like oh, that's not the Joe that I fell in love with. And I just resigned myself to this, like, oh, he's older, it's broken down, he's going to have to change his style up a little bit more. And that's fine. That happens with a lot of guys. Not everyone can do the same matches they were doing in their 20s now that they're, getting into their late 30s and into their 40s.
He's got to learn how to work in the big leagues.
Exactly. And he's slowing down. I was like, well, this is fine. It's a watered down version of Samoa Joe, but that's just what I have to live with now because that's the style of wrestler he is now. Then he goes to AEW and he's doing stuff with Ring of Honor now and he's doing stuff here and I was like, oh no, he's still there.
Yeah.
Joe he never left. He just went on sabbatical for a bit. And now like my Samoa Joe is back again and he was in full force in this. Like that, it was all during the picture-in-picture ad break stuff for the Americans, but we got it like full on the fight feed. The chop sequence with Dax and like the New Japan Ring of Honor style sequence they had was so good.
Those first few chops on Punk when they touched, they were stiff chops. And that's it, isn't it? It's like with CM Punk, to answer the question, is he worth it? You can't have the kayfabe without this shoot side of him. And back in the WWE days, I loved the shoot side of him because we just, it was a crap product. We found our enjoyment elsewhere. But now I'm actually very content with just the kayfabe side of AEW. I don't want there to be drama. I really enjoy the wrestling and the storytelling. But Punk still has this shoot stuff that irks him and he creates this backstage drama for himself. He could let go of some of these grievances. But the kayfabe stuff is my favorite.
When I look back on this debut episode of Collision, it's not the promo I don't think I'm going to be talking about. It's that main event, the wrestling in that main event, the Buddy Matthews Andrade match. Oddly enough, not Luchasaurus winning the TNT title, but
did that happen?
But certainly Christian Cage celebrating with it. The awesomeness of Miro, Sky Blue being brilliant. Like that's the sort of stuff, and I'm really enjoying the Outcast. It's not going to be Punk's Young Bucks jibe. Or him talking about David Zaslav. I think that it will be Joe versus Punk will be the thing that I remember. And actually the main event, to talk about else in the match, Punk had the match lost because Joe got the Kikina clutch locked in. Jay White had Dax tied up in the ropes and Juice Robinson had Cash. Cash managed to escape from Juice Robinson, go and save Dax so Dax could go and save Punk. But they kind of put it over on commentary at the end of this match. FTR saved that for Punk. Because Punk would have tapped out, would have passed out to the Kikina clutch. And Punk may have stood tall at the end, but without FTR, he probably would have lost. And that ties into Punk's promo at the start of the show, which is that, like, no one's pinned or submitted me since I, didn't lose this belt. And I will hand that belt over to the person who can do that. Sets up a nice feud for Joe.
Well, should we see what everyone that thinks in the CMDMs, the OmegaChats, WrestleTalk.com/support, send them in there and we'll read them out over $5. Alamak says, I'm going to give it a few weeks. Collision as a whole was great, but Punk does not seem worth the potential trouble. Makes for good news, though. Also, they can split the roster for Dynamite and Collision, but won't they have to be in the same building for pay-per-views?
Yeah.
It's not a sustainable situation.
And it happens literally next week with Forbidden Door. If Punk's on the show, which I would probably wager he will be.
Yeah, no setup for anything for him for Forbidden Door.
Yeah, and the report was that it was going to be Punk versus Kenta, but Punk wasn't keen on doing the Kenta match, and by all accounts, neither was Kenta. So, great matchmaker Tony Khan maybe, but probably check ahead of time before you know, or maybe he didn't and he got out. But yeah, Kenta's very vocal online that he does not want to do that match. Monmouth, can we get a poll up? Is he worth it? Is Punk worth it? Is he worth it? Yes or no?
Scotty Bosock says, don't get in live much, but been a patron for 4 years or so. Thank you so much. The WrestleTalk extra reviews get me through many drives. I would have joined earlier, but I'm a mod for a mutual friend. Shout out to Queen of the Ring.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy that Ollie gets Kevin Kelly on AEW. That's actually the thing I'm most happy about tonight.
Yeah.
And that entrance music.
Yeah, with Elton John. I purposely held back telling Ollie the commentary team for Collision because I wanted to do it on stream so I could get your reaction for Kevin Kelly live.
I got a big comment from Hannah Allen here. On my earlier comments, because she chatted in the live reactions, I missed the start of the show. I just watched the promo. I now strongly dislike Punk. Like that promo made me angry, and I'm not an angry person. In modern society, we give the voice to the wrong people, and they abuse it. I don't know Punk, the person, and obviously, I'd say that that's not just modern society. That's not a unique thing here. I don't know Punk the person, and obviously I don't know the full story of what actually happened. Punk and people like him are dangerous because they understand the power and influence they have, and they use it to fuel whatever delusion they might have. For the same reasons I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, lol. Calling himself the king and repeating, "Tell me when I'm telling lies," bull S-word. Fill your line, and worst of all, to yourself. No fan whatsoever, not a fan whatsoever. Loved everything else and love you guys, jam that jam. So to clarify as well, I understand this is a character on a wrestling show. However, all the drama was real life and it has real life consequences. I wasn't expecting an apology. I also wasn't expecting this expletive, calling fans soft, expletive off, junk.
Yeah, I mean, Hannah not on side with CM Punk in all that. Yeah. That's why I'm reserving my judgment on some of this Punk promo to see what this future character is. If it is what I'm sort of like reading it to be, if it's not, and it's just regular Phil, then I think a lot of this was misjudged.
Sir Low, I give it 6 months before he throws another fit because someone he didn't like cut the same promo other people did and used the fans to turn on AEW like he did at Brawlout. This didn't solve the problem, it just rewarded the problem. Awesome show though. That's something we raised in the live reactions, where it does feel this is the show where a lot of the problem children have been placed, and it's hard not to feel like it's a reward for Andrade. You intentionally tried to get fired. Miro, you said you wouldn't lose to people. Punk, you publicly undermined the company and sort of significantly derailed it for a year.
Thunder Rosa,
have your own show.
Yeah, like someone in the live reactions ultra chatted and say that it felt like the detention kids.
Anas the Sultan. When watching Punk, it did feel like I was listening to a deranged man speak. It did feel like Homelander. You guys are the real heroes. If he's a heel, great. But I don't know how much I really want real life to constantly be playing into this. Cody Menenga, Memberg for 12 months. Punk and FTR being grumpy vets that are tired of having to work with children would be interesting. Who outside the elite would they feud with?
House of Black. Could be. The
Acclaimed.
The faction, the Acclaimed. Quite a lot of trios set up on this show.
Playing Nice 101. CM Punk is an incredible talent and magnetic on the mic, but this whole situation just does not sit right with me. He calls out our favourite wrestlers soft when he was the one who initially got offended by a throwaway line from Hangman.
Yes, kind of what I was saying earlier.
Iric. First time Ultra Chat. I was in the building tonight for my first ever AEW event and the crowd was on fire. And that main event lived up to the hype. More Dax versus Joe, please. Book it, Tony.
I want that.
Hashtag jam that jam.
I want that in the Owen Hart tournament.
Yeah. So yes, we will. Oh, just do that last
There's one more. Eternal Blue's been a member for 24 months in a row. Says 2 years. What a milestone to reach. I'm so damn happy. So proud to have watched the podcast channel grow so much to 2 more years. Cheers, boys.
Thank you very much. So the rest of the show, we won't dive into a great deal, but we'll sort of recap and give a few thoughts. Luchasaurus versus Wardlow came after the Punk opening promo.
I was more distracted by your first note there.
Oh, yes. So this is where we had some graphics pop up in the bottom left saying what was coming up later.
Still to come, it said.
But the choice of font that AEW have chosen for Collision upper field graphics. The C is very, very similar to an O.
It's a fine line that's breaking up that C from it being an O. So it just looked like still to
That brought us a great deal of fun.
It's really the only thing I remember from this match is still to and the finish.
I know, because, I mean, the only other thing I can remember was Christian going under the ring for no reason.
Yeah. I thought, he's going under there to get a weapon or something, but no, he just came back out and then he tried to trip Wardlow on the apron. He was being an 80s chicken S-word heel manager, But it's weird to do that with Christian Cage, who was literally wrestling Wardlow in a ladder match not 3 weeks ago.
And it was just a bit of a middling match, unfortunately. Nothing really got me into it or was exciting. The big deal, though, is the end, where Christian wasn't interfering because he'd get his boy DQ'd, but he was trying to distracting.
Wardlow.
And then at the end, Wardlow is finally shouting at Christian. Christian smashes a camera, not a big video one, but a photography camera, over Wardlow's head, and he falls back into a Luchasaurus pin.
Luchasaurus wins the TNT Championship.
Another dud reign for Wardlow.
Oh, God, absolutely, yeah. But my question was going to be, did Luchasaurus really win that belt? Because Christian Cage was handed the belt and he celebrated like he'd won it. He got up onto the turnbuckle. He held it above his head. Luchasaurus sees this, walks over, puts Christian on his shoulders like he used to do with Jungle Boy, and Christian is holding it above his head, going, yeah! In his mind, he is the TNT champion. I like the idea of you could do Christian having Luchasaurus defend having him defend the belt for him because he's not actually the champion, or does he just get Luchasaurus to lay down for him on Dynamite so he can officially crown himself the TNT champion?
That would get him a lot of heel heat. I wouldn't be against it.
No, me neither.
I love how sincerely Christian played this. He wasn't comedy celebrating, oh yeah, I won the title when he hadn't. It seemed to mean so much to him. It was great. It was a great performance from Christian.
It was really good. And you're right. That is another dud run for Wardlow. But sometimes, Ollie, it's not about the runs. It's just how many you have of them.
I did have stomach problems today.
Oh, yeah?
So that rings true for me.
So you're liking it to Charlotte Flair with the women's title and Wardlow with the TNT.
Too many runs. QTV announced Powerhouse Hobbs will be in the Owen Hart tournament. That's good. Andrade and Buddy Matthews then had a long match. I want to say about 20 minutes. And it was a very steadily building match that meant when it kicked up a gear at the end, it was incredible because they'd done all this groundwork to sell Andrade's shoulder, I think, or maybe his sort of bicep. And because didn't he have surgery? That's another.
They did, yes.
And
they also did this with Buddy because Buddy did this top rope meteora, and he started selling his knee where he has also had surgery.
And great selling from Buddy, I thought. And they even had a spot in the ad break where both men were checked on by medical staff, and I was like, "Is everyone okay here?"
I did step forward to be like, "Oh man, that sucks." This is the first big. It's Andrade's first match in forever. It's a Buddy singles match, which we don't get enough of. It's on the brand new show. It's live, pal. Sucks that you got this injury here. But as soon as two doctors were both looking at it, I was like, maybe it's a work thing here. And eventually both of them stood up and the fighting spirit took over them to finish this match. This was my match of the night.
The crowd went that spot. The crowd went crazy for them because it was just such a well executed and well thought out idea. And then we had some really other fun bits where Buddy uses Rhea's submission, and then Andrade reversed it into Charlotte's not just figure 4, but the full on figure 8, which Buddy tapped him because he'd been working over that knee.
Yeah, a really, really smart finish. And I love that Andrade finished with the figure 8 off the back of Buddy using his partner submission. I loved this match. This match was so great.
Andrade was definitely presented as a babyface throughout. He didn't come out with Jose. He didn't come out with any of
no Rouge, no
Robles. And they... What happened?
So Andrade was trying to
shake his hand.
He's trying to pick Buddy up and shake his hand. And the lights go out. And when they come back on, Buddy is still in the ring. But Brody King is standing behind Andrade. And Malachi Black is sitting in the corner. Malachi essentially just gives the instructions. And they all beat the crap out of Andrade.
Seeing Andrade and Malachi in the ring together, really had those NXT feels.
I was like, get that man a trilby and some suspenders.
So yeah, it looks like we're setting up House of Black versus
LIF.
What's
Oh,
that?
LFI.
What's LFI?
That's his group, right? Los Facciones de Ingobernables.
Just say that to not say ignorables.
Ingo de Bananas.
Really exciting. Great comeback for Andrade.
Yeah, really
I
good.
can't wait for that.
This would be the match I would tell people to go out of your way to check out. It was really, really great. It's one of those matches like, oh yeah, Andrade should be a star. Like, he should be one of the top guys in this company. And Buddy completely held his own. Awesome match.
God. If we're going to get Roosh going against Buddy Matthews and Malachi.
I want Roosh and Brody King.
Roosh is going to beat him up.
Oh yeah.
Tony Neese then comes out and cuts a promo on the crowd being overweight. And this was all just a way to set up. I can't do the horn.
No?
Miro made his return as well after a long hiatus and redeemed the hell out of Tony Neese.
I think Miro really liked this match because he got to win. So that is creative that works for him, brother.
Yeah, so Miro, not much there was fun stuff.
But Tony Neese, very fun heel. Smart Mark Sterling, very fun heel. Miro won with the game over.
Then we have Willow and Sky Blue tagging against the Outcasts. Sky Blue, local girl from Chicago, had a mum at ringside just like she did at Dynamite. This was fun. This was a good match as well.
Really, really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
You said this in the live reactions, but the Outcasts have really come into their own as of late. Like this, now that they're a trio, like Ruby Soho feels so much more interesting. Tony Storm feels so much more interesting now, and they're really good together. And I think they're having
great wrestlers.
Great wrestlers. I think they're having really good matches. It's got something they can sink their teeth into, as opposed to just being two-dimensional. We are good people. And it makes Willow Nightingale, who is just like pure babyface, just feel even more pure babyface, as does Sky Blue, because they're going up against these dastardly heels that are doing this Mean Girls L on the forehead shtick and spraying people in the face with hairspray. Like, they're the beautiful people in TNA. And maybe that's why I like them so much, because they remind me of the beautiful people.
You like the beautiful people for another reason, I think.
What was the reason?
The entrance.
Oh, well, letting the pigeons look.
That's my butt going.
Watching it back now with Don West and Mike Tenero coming to go, whoa, guys, asses. Thank you, cameraman. It's like, oh god.
Willow had two great spots in this. One, she threw that canister into the crowd, which was fun. The other one, she pounced Ruby Soho's face into the guardrail.
It's so awesome. Sky Blue picked up the win with the code blue after Willow. Tony Storm was going to spray Sky Blue in the face with the canister, and then Willow almost forced it to spray into Ruby's face instead. Fun finish. I really, really liked this match. I loved all four people in this.
Yeah.
And I came to the realization that one of the reasons why Tony Storm looks so much more evil now is because she looks like Mugatu from Zoolander.
Yeah, it's uncanny.
Yeah.
Then we got the Acclaimed doing an in-ring promo, which Tony Schiavone was there to host. So Tony's the in-ring interviewer. There's no brand split for Schiavone. And
you don't get Saturdays off.
Yeah. They just said, happy Father's Day to Daddy Ass. They're still going to go for the trios titles. They're going to be on both Dynamite and Collision. So there was never any talk about a brand split.
It's an internal brand split.
But the commentators never said it.
No.
But then an act said, "Don't worry, everybody, we're going to be on Collision."
No, that's not what they said. They said that AEW has previously stood for Acclaimed Every Wednesday. It now also stands for Acclaimed Every Weekend. They didn't say we are going to be on both Dynamite. What they mean is just we're on both shows. There are now two shows that we're on.
They say every.
Yeah, that's the E.
That means they're on all the shows all the time. That's no brand split.
No, it's not a brand split. It's not a Raw and SmackDown brand split. There's an internal brand split. There's just not an external brand split that we see on TV. Unless, of course, you're paying attention, I guess.
And then they did a fun four-way scissor, which Tony got involved in, and it was a lot of fun.
It felt like a lot of this show was setting up various different trios, because you had House of Black with Andrade to set up Andrade, bringing in his little faction for trio stuff. The Acclaimed here doing some trio stuff. It was a trios main event with CM FTR, who've got their own merchandise. There's 4 trios teams right there. And so in live reactions, you could make Collision the home of the trios.
Apart from that one notable one.
Yeah, well, the varsity athletes might be really drafted to...
Blackpool Combat Club, JAS.
Yep.
There's plenty to go around, I think. Just no more tag teams anymore. Not got any tag teams.
Well, they're having a blind eliminator tournament.
Whatever that is. Overall, I thought it was a terrific show. Percentage-wise, I don't want to give it percentage-wise.
Have you got your percentages to hand so you can kind of compare it to others?
I'd probably give it like an 85.
Yeah. I mean, in my basic bitch out of 5 score, I'd have given this 5 out of 5, 100%. Like, I loved this episode. There was nothing on this episode that I didn't like. Though Punk's promo, while it could be questionable in some places, it's magnetic. It's like he's a captivating presence that I could not take my eyes nor ears off of. Wardlow and Luchasaurus wasn't great, but it's a notable title change, and I really enjoyed the finish. I love the idea we're going with Christian there. Tag match was great. Andrade Matthews was great. Yeah. Miro's in-ring squash was awesome, and that main event was superb. Like this was an episode that didn't step a foot wrong, and insanely, at the end of that Miro squash was the top of the hour. They got so much in that first hour, but nothing felt rushed. There was an incredibly well-paced show. Loved it.
We've got the poll result for CM Punk. Is he worth it? Yes. 57%. No, 43%.
Oh, that's still pretty split. We've had this as well on the podcast in the past where we've asked people, like, do you want to see CM Punk come back? And it always does feel like it's a 50-50 split. Thankfully, there's 2 shows that have got a 50-50 split now.
It means, and one of those sections is soft.
Yeah, well...
S-W-A-F-T. Swaft. Maybe that's what he meant. He was sending us another message.
He's talking to you again directly.
Yeah. Do we have shout-outs?
I was just checking to see if we do. No, we don't.
Well, we'll finish off with the remaining Omega chats. Anas the Sultan says, it's been said before, but at least Punk isn't bigoted. He just talked to the crowd about supporting trans youth and queer folk. He is a good person, but can be very annoying at times. It could always be worse.
Yeah, there was a lot of people talking about this on the Twitter sphere. He had someone had a sign that said "protect LGBTQ youth," and I think they even brought him into the ring and stuff, like him and the FCR, because it's something that's very important to them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm Just Marcus says, watching that Punk promo felt like a kid throwing a fit in a promo form. He's an amazing wrestler and promo, but he has too much pride for his own good, and honestly, it just felt wrong. But everything else about tonight was pure fun. Jam that jam, boys.
Jam that jam.
And finally, Hannah Allen says, sorry guys, I was upset if you couldn't tell. Lol, you've cheered me up. Shout out to Patreon and the WrestleTalk Extra monthly reviews on a run with the podcasts and rewatching old pay-per-views, old TNA pay-per-views in particular. So much fun, and most are on YouTube. Lots of love. Lots of love to you too, Hannah. Well,
Hannah, there's another one coming in a couple of weeks' time, because the next episode of WrestleTalk Extra is myself and Oliver Davis reviewing TNA Slammiversary 2009. Now, I know what a lot of people will be thinking. It's 2 King of the Mountain matches. I know a lot of you will be thinking it's Sting versus Matt Morgan. But really, what everyone we wanted to talk about is Raven and Daphne versus Abyss and Taylor Wilde in the first ever Monsters Ball tag match. It's match of the night.
And Jeff Jarrett's in the main event.
And Jeff Jarrett is in the main event. Jeff Jarrett was featured on this show. He got this big promo because he's got a match with Mark Briscoe in a concession stand brawl. Oh, that's going to be so much fun. Yeah. I'm talking about the pacing of this show. They had the sort of match card rundown of what's coming up on Dynamite and Forbidden Door and stuff. And Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness just had time to go through it and show. They even showed a clip from Ring of Honor to promote a match that's happening on Dynamite, which Minoru Suzuki is a part of, oddly.
It was a well-produced show, definitely. But thank you very much for joining us here.
Well, we need to check the poll to find out what people thought, but I need to get up and do it on the other computer, so bear with. Hold on, 1 second.
He's ending the poll.
I've ended the poll.
And the poll results are...
I nearly ended the stream. 4% thumbs down. 14% in the middle. 80 thumbs up.
Oh, that's very high. Not as high as some recent Dynamites, though.
Not as recent as Dynamite just this past
The Wednesday one was brilliant. But yes, thanks very much for joining us and for all your lovely chats. I've been Ollie Davis. That's been Luca and DAD. Jam that jam.
Jam that jam.